Hello and welcome to A Build a Day, episode 15. This one is coming out late. Very, very late in the day. I was doing work and then I was playing video games with some friends, recorded the build, had dinner with some other friends round. We then talked for a while, watched my film studies short film. I then also proceeded to be ill, which is fun. I didn't throw up, but, felt awful. So it's now 10:15. Yeah, it's a bit late. So, I'm recording this quickly. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Anyways, so I wanted to start the village build today, but it was getting quite late by the time I recorded the build, so I decided not to. That's going to happen tomorrow. It will happen, but I took this opportunity to sort of further develop the style that I want to use, and I'm pretty sure I've nailed it down. Here we're building a bigger house, sort of a sturdier house. So we built the hermit house in, what was it, episode 10 or something, and then we built the watchtower with a different roof style. I've sort of combined the two. I've used the same roof style from the watchtower, and I've used some of the same techniques and almost the same sort of core build as the hermit home. However, I have made it bigger, so we've added an entire new floor, so it's not got a basement anymore, but it does have a dedicated floor above the ground floor. It's got a room coming out the back if you take the door as the front, and then it's also got like another sort of staircase room thing off to the side, which we're over at now. It took me so long to figure out how to do the stairs for this, and mostly because I was stubborn and I wanted a door. I eventually gave up on having the door. There is no door going into the stairs, which, if you think about it, makes sense. But anyway, it's basically the same techniques that I've been using for a couple builds now. 2 thick walls, stone, really sturdy stone build and stuff. Texturing, the roof is pretty much the same, but I did a couple things differently, and I quite liked them. It's sort of a mishmash of different builds. So the sort of little bit with the stairs, that's got a roof which at the top is 4 blocks. They still have the teeth look, but it's 4 blocks, then stairs, and then it's got a 2-block overhang, which at the end is made out of slabs, which means that I can put in fence gates which act sort of as like beams. I can't remember what they're called, the actual bit, but it's got like beams that come out, and I didn't put that on the main bit, sort of to see which roof I wanted more. I've decided that I want the beams because it adds a nice detail. It's a nice little thing, it looks quite good. So we're going to add those to the buildings in the village. But yeah, this build, surprising. I mean, it took me nearly half an hour to build. It did not feel like that. It felt pretty quick. I think it's because I've basically nailed down the style now. I've nailed down pretty well what I want. Yeah, it went up really quickly. So, which is quite surprising actually, given like the size. So yeah, it's I like this build actually, because I tried doing a similar thing on my sort of building testing world, I guess is what you call it. It didn't look good. Did not look good. So the fact that I've made something that looks half decent here, I'm quite happy with. And I feel like this build is one of those ones where you build it, you add shape, so you got that, it's just a rectangle, literally rectangle with other rectangles attached. That's the easiest way of adding detail. You add shape, it adds interest. But the thing that I discovered was you can add shape, and adding texture does a little bit. But the thing that I properly learned was to never give up on a build because it looks simple, because it looks boring. As you can see now, that front wall is just stone. All of it. There is the door and nothing else. It's completely flat. It's untextured. It's just the same block. And it doesn't look good. I think we can all agree that doesn't look great. But by adding some texture and persevering through the sort of like the stage in the build where nothing looks great, it's like getting there, but it doesn't look perfect. If you persevere through that, you add texture and maybe you add some like plants growing up the side and stuff, you can create interest. And obviously windows are brilliant. Various shapes of windows, different things in the windows. I have those windows with the glass and then the fences, and they look medieval, But then I've got other windows which are iron bars, and it looks like a prison when you go around there. But it changes it up a little. It adds a little tiny bit of interest, and adding tiny bits of detail, like these shutters. Just the little things I find always make a build usually better. If you add too many of them, it can look overcrowded, busy, and then there's a point where it's like, what am I looking at? And a lot of builders try and find that line, and I find that a lot of people, when they're building big, add a lot of detail where they don't necessarily need to, because they feel that it's like flat. It's, you don't need to add detail necessarily. You don't need to add blocks. You don't need to add depth, when you can just add texture. For example, that's what I did on a couple of these sections. I just added depth with a plant, and it solidified it. Like here, we're building a vine growing up the house, and it solidifies it in the world. But you can see just above the porch, there's a blank bit of wall, and it looks quite empty, and it doesn't look great. And there was one on the other side as well, And I realised this. I realised that this doesn't look good. It looks alright, but it can definitely better. So what I did is I added texture rather than overcomplicating the depth and the blocks and stuff. I added texture. So here we're going in and adding stone bricks, and maybe that can be, a bit of the wall that was getting old, and they replaced it with something newer and more sturdy. And you add like a little bit of a story to the build. You add this, even if it's a mental story, you going through, why is this here? This is here because of this reason. It solidifies it in the world. It gives it a reason for existing. And I learned that off Adam Savage. You probably know him from Mythbusters. But before that, he was a model maker on films. And he will basically, if you have a story for why each bit is there, you'll get a better product. Anyway, video is over. Enjoy the cinematics, and I'll see you tomorrow.